Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping back into a time before the gods ruled, to a world of endless darkness, swirling chaos, and the first whispers of creation. This isn't the heroic age of mighty Zeus or the familiar Tales of Olympus. No, this is the quieter, stranger time when the earth was still young and raw, ruled by towering titans and primal forces beyond human understanding. A place where the cosmos itself was still being shaped, where the clash between order and chaos was the very heartbeat of existence. So before you settle in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you genuinely enjoy this slow dive into the origins of everything. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. There's something comforting about knowing we're all exploring this ancient world together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a soft fan or a gentle hum in the background. And let's slowly drift into the beginnings of Greek mythology, one story at a time. Imagine a time, before the sun rose or the stars blinked into existence. There was only chaos, a yawning emptiness, a formless void stretching into the endless dark. This concept of chaos isn't the chaos you might imagine today. There were no storms or battles raging. Instead, it was the quiet, dark nothingness, the very absence of order and structure. From this silence, the Greeks imagined the first stirrings of existence. Out of chaos emerged the earliest divine beings, the primordial gods. These were not the familiar Olympians like Zeus or Hera, but elemental forces that the very fabric of the cosmos. First came Gaia, the earth itself, solid and nurturing, Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath the world, and Eros, the force of desire that would drive creation forward. Nyx, the embodiment of night, also emerged, bringing with her the darkness that blankets the sky. These primordial figures were neither good nor evil, nor were they beings with human-like intentions. They represented essential components of reality, like the ground beneath your feet or the dark void overhead. The Greeks explained the vastness and complexity of the universe by personifying its building blocks. Gaia, the earth, was the foundation of everything that would follow. From her fertile womb, the first generations of gods and creatures would be born. Imagine her as a mother whose children would later shape the world in ways both magnificent and terrifying. Her earliest offspring included Uranus, the sky, who would become her partner, and together they created a vast lineage of gods and monsters. But this family was far from peaceful. Uranus, in his role as the sky, stretched over Gaia, pressing down on her relentlessly. This oppressive union symbolized a cosmic tension, the struggle between the earth below and the heavens above. It was a slow, grinding conflict that would eventually lead to rebellion. The first generation of children born to Gaia and Uranus were the Titans, gigantic beings of immense power. They were the ancestors of many gods to come, but their story is marked by both creation and destruction. The Titans represented primal forces of nature and time, and they ruled before the Olympian gods took power. Uranus, fearing his children's potential, imprisoned some of them deep within Gaia's body, causing her great pain. This act of cruelty planted the seeds of revolt. Gaia, tired and burdened, fashioned a great sickle and called upon her children to rise against their father. Among the Titans, only one was willing to act, Cronus, the youngest but most cunning. He ambushed Uranus and with the sickle castrated him, separating the sky from the earth. This violent act changed the cosmos forever. The sky was freed to float above the earth, and the world began to take the shape familiar in Greek myth. The blood and remnants of Uranus's injury gave birth to new beings, giants, furies, and other creatures of vengeance and chaos. This violent cosmic birth illustrates a recurring theme in Greek mythology. Creation and destruction often exist hand in hand. Yet Cronus's triumph was just the beginning of another cycle of power struggles. Having overthrown his father, Cronus became the new ruler of the universe. But the prophecy that he, too, would be overthrown by his children haunted him deeply. Like Uranus before him, Cronus took drastic steps to secure his reign, swallowing each of his children at birth to prevent their rebellion. This grim and bizarre behavior paints a picture of a ruler plagued by fear and paranoia, trying to maintain control in a cosmos built on shifting power. It also sets the stage for the next generation of gods, who would change the world yet again. As we trace the lineage from chaos to Gaia, Uranus, and Cronus, we see a slow but relentless evolution of the universe from formlessness to order, shaped through cycles of conflict and uneasy peace. This ancient story, told through generations of gods, reflects not only cosmic origins but also human anxieties about power, control, and change. But what drove the very first gods to take such violent and complex actions? Was it simply a mythological explanation for natural phenomena, or did it also encode deeper truths about human nature and the world? And how did these early conflicts pave the way for the gods we are more familiar with today? Picking up from where we left off, Cronus's reign over the cosmos was anything but peaceful. Though he had successfully overthrown Uranus and secured his place as the supreme ruler, his paranoia grew with every passing moment. The prophecy that one of his children would dethrone him gnawed at him relentlessly. To prevent this fate, Cronus swallowed each of his children immediately after birth: Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Imagine the loneliness and despair within Gaia and Rhea, Cronus's wife, as they bore children only to see them vanish into Cronus's insatiable stomach. This gruesome act was more than just mythological drama. It reflects ancient fears about family, succession, and survival. Power was not just a matter of might but of control over lineage and legacy. But Rhea, desperate to save her youngest child, Zeus, devised a cunning plan. When Zeus was born, she hid him away in a cave on the island of Crete, entrusting his upbringing to nymphs and nurturing creatures like the goat Amalthea. To deceive Cronus, Rhea wrapped a large stone in swaddling clothes and presented it to Cronus, who swallowed it without suspicion. The myth of Zeus's secret childhood is more than just a story of rescue. It symbolizes the hidden and patient forces of change waiting to emerge. Zeus's youth in the wilderness, raised away from his father's oppressive gaze, allowed him to grow stronger and wiser, ready to challenge the old order. As Zeus reached adulthood, he sought to free his siblings and reclaim his rightful place. With the help of the Oceanid, who gave him a potion, Zeus forced Cronus to regurgitate the swallowed children. This dramatic moment marked the beginning of a monumental conflict known as the war between the Olympian gods, led by Zeus, and the Titans, led by Cronus. This war was not a quick skirmish but a long and arduous battle that lasted for 10 years. It was a cosmic civil war fought with tremendous forces, earthquakes, thunderbolts, and armies of divine beings. The stakes were nothing less than the control of the universe's destiny. The Titans fought fiercely to retain their power, but Zeus and his siblings, with their new allies, the and the hundred-handed giants, had the edge. Grateful for their release from Tartarus by Zeus, forged powerful weapons for the Olympians, including Zeus's iconic thunderbolt. Eventually, the Olympians triumphed. The Titans were cast down into Tartarus, a dark abyss beneath the earth, guarded by eternal flames and monstrous creatures. This defeat wasn't just a physical exile but a symbolic passing of the cosmic torch from one generation to the next. Zeus emerged as the undisputed ruler of the cosmos, the king of gods and men. But unlike his predecessors, Zeus's reign was marked by a new order based on a balance of power, justice, and the rule of law, even if his personal life was anything but orderly. His brothers Poseidon and Hades were granted dominion over the sea and the underworld, respectively, dividing the cosmos into 3 realms. This division of power helped stabilize the universe in mythic terms, creating a structured world where each god had a clear role. However, Zeus's rise was far from a neat resolution. His rule brought new challenges and conflicts, both among gods and mortals. The story of Greek mythology from this point forward becomes a rich tapestry of interactions between divine forces and human lives, reflecting the complexities of authority, fate, and survival. What's fascinating is how the myths portray the balance between chaos and order, not as a final victory of good over evil, but as an ongoing tension. Even Zeus's rule is filled with uncertainty, betrayals, and moral ambiguities. How did the ancient Greeks reconcile this uneasy balance in their worldview? And how did the legacy of the Titans influence the Olympians' rule despite their defeat? The echoes of this ancient conflict continue to resonate in stories yet to come. With the behind him, Zeus settled into his role as the supreme ruler of the cosmos, a position that shaped not only the divine world, but also the human experience. The establishment of this new order marked the beginning of a period of relative stability, but also one filled with complexities and contradictions. Zeus's reign was a balance of power, justice, and unpredictability. Unlike the blind fate or brute force that marked his predecessors, Zeus was seen as the god who upheld law and order, intervening to maintain balance among gods and humans alike. This was not a simple or serene kingship. It was one that demanded vigilance and sometimes ruthless decisions. The division of the universe among Zeus and his brothers, Poseidon ruling the seas and Hades the underworld, created a tripartite structure that underpinned Greek cosmology. This division reflected the ancient Greeks' understanding of their world, a complex interplay of earth, sea, and the afterlife, each governed by distinct forces. But Zeus's power was not absolute or uncontested. Even as king of the gods, he faced challenges from both within and outside his family. The Olympian gods, though united in many ways, often acted according to their own desires, leading to conflicts and rivalries that mirrored human politics. Hera's jealousy, Poseidon's tempers, and Athena's wisdom all added layers to the divine drama. Moreover, Zeus's numerous liaisons with mortals and goddesses alike resulted in a proliferation of heroes and demigods, figures like Heracles, Perseus, and Helen of Troy, who would come to define much of Greek mythic storytelling. These stories connected the divine realm with the human world, illustrating how the gods' influence permeated every aspect of life. Beyond personal stories, Zeus's reign also symbolized the emergence of civilization itself. Myths recount how he established laws, controlled weather, and mediated disputes, reflecting the values and structures important to Greek society. His thunderbolt was not just a weapon, but a symbol of divine authority and justice. The tensions between freedom and control, chaos and order, continued to play out under Zeus's watch. Myths describe times when he punished mortals for hubris, excessive pride, or defiance, reinforcing the idea that human survival depended on respecting cosmic order. Yet, even with these lessons, the myths do not present Zeus as infallible or morally perfect. His decisions sometimes brought suffering or confusion, highlighting the complexities of power. This nuanced portrayal reflects the Greeks' sophisticated understanding of leadership and human nature. In the grand scheme, the transition from chaos, through the Titans, to the Olympian era shows a gradual shaping of the universe from formlessness to order, but order that is dynamic, fraught with tension, and always evolving. The myths encapsulate this ongoing process, mirroring humanity's own struggle to find meaning and stability in a changing world. As you reflect on this ancient saga, consider how the primordial conflicts and the rise of Zeus might symbolize not just cosmic events, but also the human journey, from uncertainty and fear toward the structures that support society and survival. What lessons do these ancient stories hold for us today about power, change, and resilience? How do the myths of creation and conflict continue to shape our understanding of the world and ourselves? Before the reign of Zeus and the Olympian gods, there existed a generation of divine beings known as the Titans. These colossal figures represented primal forces of nature and cosmic principles, embodying an ancient era that shaped the very foundation of the world. To truly understand Greek mythology and its layered narratives, it's essential to examine the Titans, the giants who ruled before the Olympians and whose legacy quietly persisted in the myths and the world itself. The Titans were the children of Gaia Earth and Uranus Sky, born in a time when the universe was still young and unformed. Unlike the Olympians, whose stories often focus on human-like traits and emotions, the Titans symbolize elemental and often abstract concepts such as time, justice, and memory. Each Titan carried immense power, and their names and roles reveal how the ancient Greeks sought to explain natural phenomena and cosmic order through divine personifications. Cronus, the youngest Titan, is perhaps the most well-known because of his pivotal role in the overthrow of Uranus and the eventual rise of the Olympians. Yet, he was just one among many. Oceanus represented the vast encircling river that the Greeks believed surrounded the earth. Hyperion was associated with the sun and the light of the heavens. Mnemosyne memory, and Themis embodied divine law and order. These were not mere gods but manifestations of the universe's essential components. The Titans lived during a primordial age marked by both creation and chaos. Unlike the Olympians, who were more anthropomorphic and active in human affairs, the Titans existed as vast and often inscrutable forces. Their stories are sparse and sometimes contradictory, reflecting their distant mythic status. One of the defining aspects of the Titans was their immense size and strength. They were often described as giants who could shake the earth with their footsteps or control the elements with their gestures. This scale is important to grasp. The Titans were not just gods, but embodiments of the natural world's overwhelming power. The mythology surrounding the Titans also touches on themes of generational conflict, succession, and the cyclical nature of time. Cronus's overthrow of Uranus, his father, was a violent and symbolic act representing the passage from one cosmic order to another. Similarly, Cronus's later fear of his own children and his attempts to prevent being overthrown highlight the inevitable cycle of change and the anxiety it brings. The reign of the Titans, sometimes called the Golden Age, was characterized by a natural, unspoiled world. According to some sources, this was a time of peace and abundance when mortals lived in harmony with the gods. Yet this age was not without tension. The Titans' rule was ultimately unstable, foreshadowing the coming upheaval that would bring the Olympian gods to power. What becomes fascinating is how the Titans, despite their defeat, were never fully erased from Greek thought. Their names and concepts endured, influencing later myths and religious practices. Some Titans were even worshipped locally or invoked in rituals, highlighting the layered and complex nature of ancient belief. Understanding the Titans invites us to see beyond the often dramatic tales of Zeus and his siblings, and to appreciate the deeper cosmological ideas that Greek mythology encoded. These forgotten giants represent an older world, one of elemental forces and cosmic principles that continue to resonate beneath the surface of the more familiar stories. As we delve deeper into the stories of the Titans, we might ask, what do these ancient figures tell us about how the Greeks understood the world's origins and the nature of power itself? How do the Titans' stories reflect human fears about change, legacy, and the relentless passage of time? Continuing our journey into the world of the Titans, we now reach the heart of their story, the epic war between the Titans and the Olympian gods. This conflict was not just a mythic battle for supremacy, but a profound narrative about the cyclical nature of power, the struggle between old and new, and the shaping of the cosmos itself. The war began after Zeus's dramatic escape from Cronus's stomach and the liberation of his swallowed siblings. With their full strength restored, the Olympians challenged the Titans' reign, demanding a new order. The Titans, who had ruled since the dawn of creation, were not willing to relinquish their power without a fierce fight. The lasted 10 years, a long and exhausting conflict that reshaped the universe. The battlefield was vast, stretching from the heavens to the earth, from mountain tops to deep chasms. The very elements themselves seemed to join the fray, with earthquakes, storms, and thunderbolts tearing through the skies. The Titans, with their colossal strength and ancient authority, were formidable opponents. Cronus, the leader of the Titans, marshaled his forces with the weight of eons behind him. Among the Titans were powerful figures like Oceanus, Titan of intellect, and Iapetus, each commanding their own realms and legions. Yet the Olympians were not without their allies. Zeus, in particular, forged key alliances that would turn the tide. He freed thee and the gigantic beings with 50 heads and 100 hands, who had been imprisoned by Uranus and Cronus. Grateful, these primordial creatures armed Zeus and his siblings with extraordinary weapons, the thunderbolt for Zeus, the trident for Poseidon, and a helmet of invisibility for Hades. These weapons were not merely symbolic. They represented the shifting balance of power from raw strength to strategic and technological superiority. The Olympians' use of these gifts underscores how innovation and alliances can overcome brute force and tradition. The battles themselves were depicted as cataclysmic, shaking the foundations of the earth and the heavens. Mountains crumbled, seas churned, and skies roared. Yet, unlike modern depictions of war, these struggles were deeply intertwined with the cosmic order. Each blow exchanged was a move in the shaping of reality itself. The war ended with the defeat of the Titans. Many were cast into Tartarus, a deep abyss beneath the earth, guarded by the to prevent their escape. This imprisonment was both a punishment and a containment of primordial chaos, ensuring that the Titans would no longer disrupt the new cosmic order. But not all Titans were punished equally. Oceanus, for instance, did not take part in the war and remained free, continuing to symbolize the world-encircling river. Others, like Prometheus, and sided with the Olympians, playing crucial roles in later myths about humanity's origins and fate. This is a mythological narrative that encapsulates the profound themes of generational conflict, the inevitability of change, and the tension between order and chaos. It reflects the ancient Greeks' understanding of history and nature as cycles of rise and fall, creation and destruction. What is particularly compelling is how this story humanizes the cosmic struggle, showing that power is never static and that every victory carries the seeds of future conflict. The Titans' defeat was not the end but a transformation, a passing of the torch that set the stage for new challenges. As you think about this vast conflict, consider the ways it mirrors human experiences of change and revolution. How do the Titans' fall and the Olympians' rise speak to the inevitability of progress and the losses that come with it? And what might this ancient story suggest about the balance between respecting the past and embracing the future? With the concluded and the Olympians firmly established as the rulers of the cosmos, the Titans seemed relegated to the shadows of myth, giants defeated, imprisoned, and mostly forgotten. Yet, their legacy persisted in subtle and profound ways, shaping not only the mythology but also the worldview and cultural practices of the ancient Greeks. The punishment of the Titans, banishment to Tartarus, was not simply a final act of justice. Tartarus itself is a concept that embodies the deep, unseen forces of the world, a prison for chaos, a place of darkness and isolation, but also a reminder of the cosmos's inherent instability. The Titans' confinement symbolizes the containment of primordial disorder beneath the surface of the ordered universe. Despite their imprisonment, the Titans were never fully erased from the stories told by the Greeks. Their names remained attached to natural phenomena and abstract concepts. For example, Oceanus continued to represent the vast, encircling river thought to surround the world. Mnemosyne, Titaness of memory, was revered as the mother of the Muses, goddesses of art and knowledge, linking the Titans to culture and creativity. Prometheus, one of the Titan brothers who sided with the Olympians, stands out as a pivotal figure in Greek mythology. He's Zeus by stealing fire and giving it to humanity, an act that symbolizes the spark of knowledge and survival. Prometheus's punishment, eternal torment, underscores the tension between divine authority and human progress. The enduring presence of the Titans in myth also reveals the Greek understanding of history as cyclical and layered. The old order does not disappear entirely when a new one arises. Rather, it remains embedded within the new structures, influencing events and beliefs in ways both visible and hidden. From a cultural perspective, the Titans represent the ancient, raw forces of nature and the chaotic beginnings from which civilization emerged. Their stories helped Greeks articulate fears about change, loss, and the uncontrollable aspects of life, while also offering narratives about resilience and transformation. In many ways, the Titans serve as metaphors for the untamed forces humanity must confront: time, memory, natural disasters, and even the darker parts of the human psyche. The mythic battle between Titans and Olympians reflects humanity's ongoing struggle to impose order on these forces, a theme that resonates across cultures and eras. Moreover, the Titans' mythos provides insight into ancient Greek rituals and religious practices. Some regions and cults honored certain Titans, acknowledging their power and seeking to appease or harness it. This reveals a nuanced relationship between fear, respect, and worship in ancient religion. In the grand narrative of Greek mythology, the Titans are the foundation upon which the Olympian myths build. Their story is not just one of defeat, but of survival in memory and symbol. They remind us that history is not simply a linear progression, but a complex web of influences where old and new coexist. As you reflect on the Titans' story, consider how their presence echoes in modern ideas about power, legacy, and resistance. How do these ancient giants embody the forces that challenge and shape societies even today? And what might their story teach us about the balance between honoring the past and forging the future? In the vast, shadowy prehistory of Greek mythology, few figures embody the uneasy tension between power and destiny like Cronus. As the youngest Titan and the son of Gaia and Uranus, Cronus's story is a complicated dance of ambition, fear, and the relentless weight of prophecy, a story that shaped the destiny of gods and mortals alike. Cronus first came to prominence as the Titan who overthrew his father Uranus, an act of brutal rebellion that changed the cosmos forever. But this victory was far from triumphant peace. It marked the beginning of a reign shadowed by anxiety and foreboding. Cronus's story is a vivid example of how ancient myths grappled with the cyclical nature of power, how each generation, no matter how strong, lives under the threat of being displaced. After his father's violent removal, Cronus took control of the universe. His rule was often described as a golden age, a time of abundance and relative harmony for gods and mortals. Yet, beneath this veneer of prosperity lay deep insecurities. Cronus had learned from his father's fate the dangers of unchecked power and the fragile nature of authority. This fragility was embodied in a chilling prophecy. One of Cronus's own children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown Uranus. This foretelling was not just a mythological detail. It reflected a profound human anxiety about legacy, succession, and the inevitable passage of time. Haunted by this prophecy, Cronus took drastic and horrifying measures to secure his reign. Each time his wife, Rhea, bore a child, Cronus swallowed the newborn whole, sealing them inside his body to prevent any challenge to his rule. Imagine the grimness of this act, not only a physical swallowing but a symbolic attempt to consume the future itself. The myth tells us little about Cronus's internal state during this time. Was he tormented by guilt or numb from fear? Did he truly believe this act would grant him eternal rule, or was it a desperate grasp at control over an uncontrollable fate? The silence around his emotions invites us to imagine the psychological weight of absolute power burdened by paranoia. Meanwhile, Rhea's grief and cunning set the stage for the eventual downfall of Cronus. Unable to save her children through direct confrontation, she resorted to deception, swapping the youngest, Zeus, with a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes. This small act of subversion carried immense consequences, not only for the family but for the cosmic order. Cronus's fear of the prophecy highlights a theme central to Greek mythology: the tension between fate and free will. While prophecies were often seen as inevitable, myths also explored how individuals tried to alter or escape their destinies, often with tragic or ironic results. In Cronus's story, swallowing his children represents an attempt to negate the future, but ironically, it sets in motion the very events that lead to his downfall. The swallowed gods survive within him, ready to return and challenge his reign. This narrative forces us to consider the power of prophecy in ancient thought, not just as a prediction, but as a force shaping actions and reactions. How does the fear of a foretold fate influence decisions? And what does Cronus's response tell us about leadership under the shadow of uncertainty? As we reflect on Cronus's rise and his desperate attempts to hold on to power, we begin to glimpse the deeper human concerns encoded in myth, about time, change, and the inevitability of succession. How do these ancient themes resonate with the cycles of history and personal experience you encounter? Continuing from Cronus's desperate grip on power, we turn our attention to the youngest of his children, Zeus, whose secret birth and survival would eventually upend the prophecy that haunted his father. The story of Zeus's early years is one of concealment, nurturing, and the quiet gathering of strength beneath the surface of tyranny. After swallowing each child, Cronus believed he had secured his reign, but Rhea, his wife, moved with quiet defiance. When she gave birth to Zeus, she hid him away in a remote cave on the island of Crete, entrusting his care to a group of nymphs and mythical creatures. Among his protectors were the goat Amalthea, whose milk sustained the infant god, and the armored warriors who clashed their weapons to drown out his cries, preventing Cronus from discovering the hidden child. This hidden upbringing carries a powerful symbolism. Zeus's survival depended not on strength alone, but on secrecy, community, and cunning. His story contrasts sharply with his father's open violence, highlighting different forms of resilience and resistance. While Zeus grew in the shadows, the world above remained under Cronus's uneasy rule, but the prophecy lingered like a dark cloud. Each swallowed child was trapped inside Cronus's body, living yet imprisoned. The tension between fate and free will continue to build. When Zeus reached maturity, it was time for the inevitable confrontation. The myths describe how Zeus, sometimes with the help of the Titaness of wisdom, devised a plan to free his siblings. In one version, Zeus administered a potion to Cronus that forced him to disgorge the swallowed children, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, alive and intact. The reunion of these gods was both a moment of joy and a prelude to war. United by a common cause and bound by blood, the siblings formed the core of a new divine coalition. Their goal was to challenge the Titans, rule, and fulfill the prophecy that had shaped their fate since birth. What followed was a brutal war between the old generation of Titans and the new Olympians. But this war was more than a simple battle for power. It was a cosmic struggle over the very structure of the universe, a clash between the forces of primal chaos and emerging order. The rebellion of Zeus and his siblings illustrates the inevitability of change, even when those in power try to prevent it. It also reflects the importance of alliances, strategy, and patience in overcoming oppression. Cronus's fear of the prophecy, his swallowing of his children, and Zeus's hidden survival together create a narrative rich in tension and complexity. It challenges us to think about how fear of the future shapes actions, and how hope and resilience can subvert even the most desperate attempts to control fate. As you consider this phase of the myth, ask yourself, how do we confront the fears that hold us captive? What forms of quiet resistance or hidden strength might shape the course of history and personal destiny? With Zeus's daring escape and the liberation of his siblings, the stage was set for an inevitable confrontation that would determine the fate of the cosmos. The prophecy that had haunted Cronus came rushing toward fulfillment, bringing with it a climactic struggle between father and son, old order and new. The war that followed, was a monumental clash lasting 10 years, pitting the Olympian gods against the Titans. Cronus, once the unchallenged ruler, now faced the terrifying prospect of being dethroned by his own offspring. The conflict was not merely a battle of physical might but a profound struggle over cosmic destiny. During this war, Zeus proved to be more than just a hidden child. He was a leader and strategist, uniting the gods and securing alliances with powerful beings like the End. These primordial allies were instrumental in providing the Olympians with weapons and strength. Most famously, Zeus's thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades's helmet of invisibility. Cronus fought fiercely to maintain his grip on power, but the tide inevitably turned. The Titans' defeat was complete, and many were cast into Tartarus, a dark abyss beneath the earth, guarded to prevent their escape. This exile marked the end of Cronus's reign and the rise of the Olympian gods. But the story of Cronus does not end in total ruin. In some versions of the myth, after the fall of the Titans, Cronus was released and given rule over the idyllic island of the Blessed Isles, a kind of paradise for favored mortals. This nuanced conclusion suggests that even defeated powers retain a place within the cosmic order, reflecting the complex nature of mythic justice and legacy. Cronus's story is a profound meditation on the cyclical nature of power and time. His rise and fall echo themes that resonate far beyond mythology: how rulers confront the inevitability of change, how fear of succession shapes behavior, and how revolutions both destroy and create. In reflecting on Cronus's narrative, we see the delicate balance between control and surrender. His attempt to prevent the prophecy paradoxically ensured its fulfillment. This paradox invites us to consider how resistance to inevitable change might, in fact, accelerate it. Moreover, Cronus's story lays a foundation for understanding the Olympian order, not as a flawless or eternal regime, but as one born from conflict, fear, and sacrifice. It reminds us that power is temporary, and that every epoch carries within it the seeds of its own transformation. As you ponder these ancient tales, think about how they illuminate the human experience, the challenges of leadership, the anxiety of legacy, and the unstoppable march of time. How might these lessons apply to the cycles you witness in history or even in your own life? The story of Zeus's rise begins not with thunderbolts or battles, but with quiet secrecy and survival. Born to Cronus and Rhea during a time of fear and prophecy, Zeus's earliest years were spent far from the eyes of his fearful father, hidden to escape a grim fate. This hidden childhood is one of the most important yet understated phases in Greek mythology, where the future king of gods grew away from power's oppressive gaze, nourished by the earth and its creatures. As we've seen, Cronus swallowed each of his children at birth to prevent being overthrown. When Rhea gave birth to Zeus, she could no longer bear the loss and deception. Secretly, she took her infant son to a remote cave on the island of Crete, a rugged, isolated place where the earth's forces still felt raw and untamed. In this cave, Zeus was nurtured not by royalty or priests, but by a collection of mythic caretakers, nymphs, the goat Amalthea, and the armored guardians who shielded him from danger by clashing their weapons to mask his cries. This chorus of caretakers symbolizes the protection of new life amid danger, a theme common to survival stories across cultures. This concealed upbringing of Zeus is more than a simple tale of hiding. It reflects the ancient Greek recognition of vulnerability as a necessary stage before power can be fully realized. Zeus's strength was forged in secrecy and nurtured in obscurity, a stark contrast to the public and violent power wielded by Cronus. The cave itself, a natural womb of stone and earth, symbolizes a place of transformation, where the raw forces of nature support growth and eventual emergence. It was here that Zeus developed the resilience and wisdom that would be crucial in his future reign. Zeus's childhood is also marked by subtle interactions with nature and the divine. The goat Amalthea's milk provided sustenance, and the protective dances illustrate a communal effort to guard what was fragile but vital. These details, while seemingly mundane, emphasize the importance of community and nurture in the survival of power. During this time, Zeus was also said to have learned secrets from the divine beings around him: wisdom, strategy, and an understanding of the cosmos that would later enable him to outwit his father and the Titans. His upbringing was not just physical protection, but an education in the forces that govern the universe. This period of hidden growth raises intriguing questions. How does power develop in the absence of authority? What role does patience and concealment play in the rise of a leader? And how do seemingly powerless beginnings shape the future? The story of Zeus's secret childhood reminds us that history is not always made in grand battles or public declarations, but often in quiet moments of preparation and survival. It challenges the idea that power is always loud and visible, suggesting instead that the roots of influence may be deep, slow, and hidden. As you reflect on this phase of Zeus's story, consider how moments of vulnerability and quiet strength shape your own experiences or those in history. What lessons lie in waiting, nurtured away from the spotlight, that eventually change the course of events? Following his secret upbringing, Zeus's emergence into the cosmic arena was as much about careful planning and alliance building as it was about raw power. His rise to the throne was not instantaneous. It involved a protracted struggle with his father, Cronus, and the ancient Titans, a conflict known as the. Once mature, Zeus confronted Cronus with the help of his freed siblings, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, whom Cronus had swallowed but who were rescued thanks to Zeus's cunning. This reunion was the first step toward the Olympians reclaiming their place in the cosmos. Zeus's leadership style was distinct from the brute force displayed by the Titans. He sought strategic alliances, most notably freeing the and from their imprisonment in Tartarus. These primordial beings had been trapped by Uranus and later Cronus due to their terrifying power. Grateful for their freedom, they forged powerful weapons for the Olympians: Zeus's thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades's helm of invisibility. These weapons symbolize the fusion of strength and technology. Zeus didn't rely solely on his own might, but leveraged the skills and powers of others to challenge the older order. It was a lesson in leadership that emphasized cooperation, resourcefulness, and the innovative use of available forces. The war itself was cataclysmic. It lasted a decade, with battles shaking the heavens and the earth. Mountains crumbled, seas churned, and skies thundered under the blows exchanged by these divine titans and their challengers. The titans fought with the fury of ancient powers unwilling to relinquish control. Cronus, as their leader, wielded his formidable strength but was ultimately outmatched by Zeus's tactical acumen and the support of his allies. A turning point in the war was the decisive use of the gifts. Zeus's thunderbolt was not just a weapon, but a symbol of divine authority and justice. Its power helped to break the Titans' resistance and pave the way for the Olympians' victory. Following their defeat, most Titans were cast into Tartarus, imprisoned deep beneath the earth, guarded so they could not rise again. This exile was both punishment and containment, symbolizing the suppression of chaotic primordial forces beneath the ordered cosmos. Zeus's triumph marked the beginning of a new divine order, one that would govern both gods and mortals. The victory was not just military but symbolic of a shift from ancient, elemental chaos to a more structured and hierarchical cosmos. However, the myth also hints at the uneasy peace between the new rulers and the old. Some titans, like Oceanus, remained free, and others, like Prometheus, and sided with Zeus, suggesting that the division between generations was not absolute. As you consider this epic struggle, think about the qualities that enabled Zeus's success: patience, alliance, innovation, and strategic thinking. How do these lessons from myth reflect the realities of leadership and change in human history? And how do moments of upheaval give way to new orders that shape the future? With the Titans defeated and imprisoned, Zeus emerged as the undisputed leader of the gods, ushering in a new era defined by order, law, and complex divine politics. But the transition from rebel to ruler was far from straightforward. Zeus's reign involved more than simply wielding power. It required maintaining balance among gods, mortals, and the cosmic forces themselves. Zeus's ascension marked the establishment of Olympus as the divine seat of power, a place not only of rule but also of intricate relationships. The 12 Olympians, his siblings and children, each governed different aspects of the world and human life, creating a complex system of divine influence. One of Zeus's key challenges was managing these relationships. His wife and sister Hera, goddess of marriage and family, was often jealous and vengeful, especially regarding Zeus's numerous affairs with mortals and goddesses. This personal strife reflected broader themes in Greek myth about the balance between order and chaos, loyalty and betrayal. Despite these tensions, Zeus was viewed as the ultimate arbiter, god of justice, oaths, and hospitality. His thunderbolt symbolized not just destructive power but the enforcement of law and cosmic order. Myths portray Zeus as a figure who intervenes in human affairs, punishing hubris and protecting the righteous, reinforcing the social and moral codes of ancient Greece. Zeus's role extended beyond divine politics into shaping human civilization. He was believed to control weather, regulate seasons, and ensure fertility, forces vital to survival. Festivals, sacrifices, and temples dedicated to Zeus dotted the ancient Greek world, emphasizing his importance in everyday life. Yet Zeus's reign was also marked by ambiguity and complexity. His numerous liaisons produced heroes and demigods, figures who embodied both divine and mortal qualities, blurring the lines between gods and humans. These stories explore themes of power, identity, and the consequences of divine intervention. This nuanced reign of Zeus reminds us that power is rarely absolute or simple. Maintaining authority involves negotiation, compromise, and often personal sacrifice. His mythic rule embodies the tension between stability and change, highlighting the fragile nature of order built on both strength and diplomacy. As you contemplate Zeus's rise and reign, consider the lessons embedded in his story. How leadership requires more than strength, how relationships shape power, and how myths reflect the complexities of human governance and survival. What does Zeus's journey from hidden child to king tell us about the nature of power and resilience? How might these ancient stories offer insight into the challenges faced by leaders and societies today? Among the Olympian gods, Hera stands out as a figure of both immense influence and complex character. As the sister and wife of Zeus, she holds the title of Queen of the Gods, yet her story is often one of quiet vigilance rather than grand gestures. To understand Hera is to explore the subtle but profound ways power operates in mythology, not always through thunderbolts or epic battles, but through steadfast watchfulness and unyielding authority. Hera was born to the Titans Cronus and Rhea, making her one of the swallowed children Zeus later rescued. From the beginning, she belonged to the old Titan generation, but emerged to claim her place in the Olympian hierarchy. Her marriage to Zeus united two powerful forces, but also set the stage for enduring tensions. In Greek myth, Hera embodies the ideals and challenges of marriage, family, and social order. She is the goddess of marriage and childbirth, protector of women and the sanctity of the family unit. Her role reflects the ancient Greek emphasis on household stability as the foundation of society. Yet Hera's power is not often showcased in dramatic displays like Zeus's thunderbolt. Instead, she wields influence through her relationships and unrelenting watchfulness. Her presence is felt in the maintenance of oaths, the protection of marriage, and the enforcement of moral codes. Hera's story is marked by a complex mixture of devotion and jealousy, particularly toward Zeus's many affairs. Her vigilant nature often leads her to act against those who threaten marital fidelity, whether mortal women or goddesses. These actions, sometimes seen as petty or vindictive, reveal deeper themes about loyalty, power, and the social dynamics of family. Despite her sometimes harsh reputation, Hera is also a symbol of resilience. She endures the challenges of being both sister and wife to Zeus, navigating a relationship filled with power struggles and betrayals. Her persistence in maintaining her status and influence illustrates a form of quiet strength often overlooked in mythology. Hera's worship in ancient Greece was widespread, with numerous temples and festivals dedicated to her, emphasizing her importance in daily life and community rituals. She was revered not just as a divine figure, but as a guardian of societal values. As we explore Hera's origins and role, it's important to consider the subtleties of her power. Unlike the Olympian gods who often embody force or wisdom, Hera represents the endurance of social structures and the complexities of personal relationships within power systems. How does Hera's vigilant and persistent nature inform our understanding of power dynamics, both divine and human? What does her story suggest about the ways authority is maintained through oversight and social expectation rather than sheer force? Building on her origins as a daughter of the Titans and queen of the Olympian gods, Hera's influence extends far beyond her title. Her story is woven with the complexities of divine marriage, loyalty, and the constant effort to uphold social order amid chaos, both celestial and earthly. Hera's marriage to Zeus was not merely a union of two powerful beings. It symbolized the binding force that held together the divine family and, by extension, the social fabric of human communities. As goddess of marriage, Hera was tasked with ensuring the sanctity of this institution, which was fundamental to Greek society's stability. However, Zeus's numerous affairs with mortals, goddesses, and nymphs put Hera in a difficult and often painful position. Her response to these betrayals is a recurring theme in myths, sometimes viewed as jealousy or vindictiveness, but perhaps more accurately as a reflection of her role as protector of marital order. Hera's actions against Zeus's lovers and offspring can be seen as attempts to preserve the boundaries and expectations of marriage. Despite these tensions, Hera's relationship with Zeus was complex. While their marriage was marked by conflict, it was also a partnership essential for cosmic balance. Hera's influence tempered Zeus's authority, and their dynamic represented the negotiation inherent in power relationships between authority and restraint, dominance and partnership. Hera also played a crucial role in various myths involving heroes and mortals. Her interventions were not always antagonistic. She protected and favored those who respected marital fidelity and social norms. Yet, she could be a formidable adversary to those who threatened these ideals, demonstrating her unwavering commitment to her domain. The goddess's vigilance extended to her protection of women and childbirth, areas critical to family and societal continuity. Her festivals and cults often focused on these aspects, highlighting her nurturing side alongside her more formidable traits. In understanding Hera's role, it's essential to see her as more than a jealous wife. She embodies the tension between personal emotions and public duty, reflecting the challenges faced by figures who must uphold social order while navigating complex personal relationships. Her mythological narrative offers insights into the ancient Greek view of marriage, not as a simple bond, but as a complex institution requiring vigilance, negotiation, and sometimes sacrifice. Hera's story illustrates how power within marriage can be both protective and punitive. As you reflect on Hera's struggles and influence, consider how these themes resonate with modern ideas about power, loyalty, and the balance between personal feelings and social responsibilities. How do Hera's actions challenge or reinforce our understanding of authority within relationships? Having explored Hera's origins and her complex role in divine marriage and social order, we now turn to her lasting legacy, how she influenced not only the mythology of the gods, but also the lived realities of ancient Greek society, and why her presence remains relevant even today. Despite being often portrayed as the jealous and vengeful wife of Zeus, Hera's power is deeply rooted in her role as protector of marriage, family, and societal norms. Her vigilance ensured the stability of these foundational institutions, which were essential for the survival and cohesion of Greek communities. This quiet but unwavering authority made her one of the most respected and widely worshipped deities in the Greek pantheon. Temples dedicated to Hera, such as the Grand of Argus and the Temple at Samos, were centers of worship and social gathering, where women particularly sought her favor and protection during childbirth and marriage. These religious practices reveal the practical importance of Hera's domain. She was not only a mythic figure, but also an active presence in everyday life. Hera's mythic narrative also offers insight into the enduring human tensions around marriage, power, and fidelity. Her relentless pursuit of justice within the divine family mirrors real-world struggles with loyalty, jealousy, and the balance of power between partners. These stories provided ancient audiences a framework to understand and negotiate these difficult dynamics. Moreover, Hera's complex character challenges simplistic portrayals of female figures in mythology. She is neither purely benevolent nor wholly spiteful. Rather, she embodies the multifaceted nature of authority, combining nurturing care with formidable strength. Her vigilance is a form of resilience, demonstrating how power can be exercised through patience, watchfulness, and persistence. As you reflect on Hera's legacy, consider how her story resonates beyond myth. What does her role say about the ways societies value and regulate relationships? How do her struggles reflect ongoing human experiences with power, loyalty, and social expectation? Ultimately, Hera reminds us that power is not always loud or violent. It can be quiet, consistent, and deeply influential. Her vigilance ensured the continuity of both divine and human order, leaving a legacy that continues to inform how we think about authority, gender, and resilience.